The rating and certification system brings together a host of sustainable practices and solutions that have set standards and multi-ranging grades. On this note, Thermal Control Magazine is presenting a live interactive session on HVAC for green buildings. Ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor and privilege for me to introduce you today's distinguished speakers, Mr. Suhas Mathur, Senior Technical Manager, Green Building Certification Institute Private Limited, Mr. Mohan Prasad Marappan, Head Strategy Regional Solutions and Services, Smart Infrastructure, Siemens India, Mr. Ashish Rakheja, Managing Partner, Aeon Consultants, and Mr. Surinder Pal Singh, Director, Excelta India, and Kushagra Juneja, Managing Partner, B2O. To start with our session, I'd like to invite our first speaker, Mr. Suhas Mathur. He is a Senior Technical Manager at Green Business Certification Institute Private Limited. He primarily works on the development of energy and indoor environmental quality requirements for the US Green Building Council rating system. He is a mechanical engineer by qualification with total 9 years of experience in the green building and renewable energy industry, out of which he spent 6 years on the rating system development, indoor environment quality assessments, and building performance modeling. He is a member of Standard Core Committee at ISHRE and contributed to the development of ISHRE IEQ standard, the ISHRE Commissioning Standard. He is also a member of Building Data Exchange Committee at the International Building Performance Simulation Association. Today, Mr. Suhas will give us a brief view on role of HVAC systems and control in managing indoor air quality and a healthy economic strategy. All deal with environment quality in office buildings in India and the health and well-being of people indoors in buildings. So delegates, let's welcome Mr. Mathur.
Thank you so much and welcome everyone to this session. And this talk that I'm presenting, it will basically lay the problem statement for our discussion, and I'll also touch upon some tools that are available and as well as codes and standards that are available in India for continuous improvement in indoor environmental quality. So as Trishna has already introduced, I'm representing GBCI and I'm also a member of ISHRE. GBCI is an organization that administers a portfolio of green building rating systems, including the US Green Building Council's LEED rating system. The LEED rating system exists for new buildings, commercial interior projects, and existing buildings. It is a credit-based system which covers all aspects of sustainability, from energy efficiency, water efficiency, to human health, to sustainable sites and location and transportation. The goals of the LEED rating system include reducing contribution to global climate change and enhancing individual human health, among other things. And LEED has existed since 1998. Right now, in its current version, there is LEED v4 and LEED version 4.1. So the objective of my presentation would be to first understand the concerns on indoor air quality in Indian office buildings, describe the impact of poor indoor environment on the people in those office buildings. Going further, try and understand and describe the need for rating systems, codes, and standards to improve indoor air in buildings for mitigating pandemics such as COVID-19. And then finally, I'll list rating systems, tools, and standards that are available for benchmarking indoor environmental quality for continuous improvement. So first, what is the status of indoor environment in Indian offices? GBCI and St. Gobain Research Institute did a 2-year study of 40 office buildings in India. This was before the pandemic in 2018 and 2019 and some part of 2020 as well. We visited 30 office buildings in 9 cities covering 3 major climate zones, and this included both certified and non-certified buildings. We surveyed about 1,400 to 1,500 occupants who were mostly service sector employees with their desk jobs, and these were mostly people below 45 years of age. When we did the study, we measured indoor air quality, thermal comfort, lighting comfort, acoustic comfort, workstation design, as well as occupant perception on all of these parameters. We refer to various standards that I will also talk about, including the ISHRAE IEQ standard, which is the first global standard focused on indoor environmental quality. So in all these buildings, we collected data on their systems and type of building, construction typology, and we did measurements in all of those 30 buildings. We also collected data on occupant perception as well as their health and lifestyle. And what did we find? And this is one of the biggest problems. The study finds that most offices are unable to maintain healthy indoor air quality, and both indoor and outdoor pollutants are of concern. Only one case study was compliant with all the air quality parameters, and as you can see, carbon dioxide, nitrogen dioxide, particulate matter, and formaldehyde are big issues. CO2 is the most non-compliant parameter, followed by nitrogen dioxide and particulate matter. So we have two key issues here: poor ventilation in our buildings and inadequate filtration in our buildings. When we talk about poor ventilation, we see 73% case studies had high CO2 levels, and CO2 levels were basically higher either because their ventilation system was not operational or it even did not exist, or in the case it was operational, the air handling unit filters were so choked that outdoor air was not able to come indoors in sufficient quantities. A CO2 sensor based outdoor air intake control was found to be an effective strategy, as you can see for these green colored buildings on the right, which had a CO2 sensor installed, in ensuring that the CO2, that the ventilation system is able to read the CO2 measurement and act accordingly. Many cases with poor ventilation also had high formaldehyde because it is an indoor contaminant which needs to be diluted. And formaldehyde was coming from emissions from interior furniture and furnishings, from posters, from disinfection and cleaning supplies, and use of air fresheners. As you can see in some buildings, there were these interior materials, carpeting, as well as these posters that were generating formaldehyde and other interior VOC contaminants. So when we look at building preparedness to filter outdoor air pollutants, it is quite poor. PM 2.5, as you know, particulate pollution is a major health risk in India, and 40% of the case studies did not have filters for PM 2.5 in their ventilation system. Where there were filters present, gaps in filter maintenance impacted the filtration capacity and the volume of air delivered to the space. When we look at NO2 levels, 90% of the buildings, they lack appropriate filtration for NO2, which is basically generated due to local traffic, and it enters indoor spaces. Only 3 case studies has had chemical filters installed. So overall, what are the factors that lead to poor indoor air quality in our buildings in India? It is inadequate ventilation system design and incorrect operation or maintenance. As you can see, a delay in filter maintenance is leading to choked filters, and poor air handling unit maintenance is leading to less filtration capacity. Sometimes the set points of CO2 are very high, and there is presence of interior materials as well. So we find that overall the ventilation system in some cases was completely shut because of high pollutant levels outdoors, and in that case indoor pollutant levels also increased. And therefore the overall impact on the occupants, the people on the building, was that 45% of the survey respondents reported experiencing symptoms like eye irritation, fatigue, dizziness, and coughing, which can be due to poor indoor air quality. However, despite poor indoor air quality and experiencing the health symptoms, 68% of occupants that were surveyed, they said that they are satisfied with indoor air quality conditions. And this shows that indoor air quality is imperceptible by occupants unless it shows some symptoms. So there is a need for sensor-based controls to regulate indoor air quality, because if occupants cannot perceive it immediately, sensors will perceive it and control the air side systems to maintain healthy indoor air quality. So overall, the avenues for improvement are to do regular indoor air quality assessments, have the right kind of filters for your building's indoor problem, configure the filters to optimize between indoor and outdoor pollutants, new filtration technologies such as electrostatic filters which do not generate ozone can be tried, as they provide higher particulate efficiency and a lower pressure drop, but they must be used with caution as well. And then HVAC system maintenance must follow a strict schedule. CO2 based sensors must be installed for outdoor air regulation. So this was the status of indoor air quality and some solutions that we could see that would work for Indian buildings. And right then, the pandemic hit, and then immediately there was a need to have certain tools available for continuous improvement and reoccupying the building spaces after the pandemic is over, or even as it slows down. So some of the tools that exist include USGBC's LEED Safety First pilot credits, which are part of our healthy economy strategy. So if you are a building that is aspiring for LEED certification right now, whether it's an existing building or a building that is about to be commissioned, you can look at these pilot credits that will help you implement strategies for cleaning and disinfecting, workplace reoccupancy, and HVAC and public plumbing system operations. So one of the key points that these LEED Safety First pilot credits help you with is answering how do you minimize the spread of coronavirus through the air in your building. Now this has been a controversial topic, but thankfully now WHO has acknowledged that coronavirus is airborne as well and can spread indoors through airborne transmission. And there were various research papers that were published and which came out with conclusive evidence that there is transmission of virus indoors, and air quality related solutions will definitely help. So CDC, Central for Disease Control, also published guidance for airborne transmission of SARS-CoV-2, and using all of these strategies and more, we had a list of pilot credits called the Safety First pilot credits, which focus on precautionary best practices for managing air quality in buildings during the pandemic to minimize the spread of COVID-19. So how can you be more prepared when you're thinking of reoccupying your building? You can pursue these pilot credits, which is Safety First ARC re-entry, then Safety First re-enter your workplace, pandemic planning, and social equity in pandemic planning. And the intent is to prepare for, control, and mitigate the spread of the virus indoors with these strategies. Now, the other questions that these strategies also help you answer is, how do you design for flexibility? How do you promote safe construction practices? And how do you design building systems with the capability to respond to pandemics and other natural disasters? So, for the purpose of the coronavirus post-pandemic reoccupancy, we had USGBC and ARC created this tool called ARC Reentry, which basically allows facility management, occupants to basically track the strategies that are being implemented in the buildings. So ARC Reentry, it provides a tool for facility managers to create effective infection control policies and procedures, engage occupants to provide targeted feedback based on their experience, and use indoor air quality measurements to inform operations. So, and every ARC user can collect, manage, and score data through ARC Reentry and download and customize the reports for themselves. And these are the kinds of surveys that are there for facility management. So does the facility have infectious disease control policies and plans? Are these plans aligned with the government and academic institution policies and guidelines? Are the policies for these facilities including any communication or signage for the people? Is there hand washing and disinfection being promoted, or occupant screening, or a paid sick leave being provided to the occupant? So each element has a yes or no question and the opportunity to provide supporting information as a hyperlink file. And then these strategies can be used for common spaces, tenant spaces, and whole spaces. And these strategies can be used for 360-degree surveys by management, tenant, and visitors. The surveys are easy to use as they involve some sliders which can be used by the occupants to really communicate their satisfaction or dissatisfaction. And the tool requires projects to monitor relative humidity, CO2, and particulate matter. So this was a tool that was being used as part of the LEED Green Building certification. Apart from that, there is also the ISHRAE IEQ standard, which is the first standard globally focusing on indoor environmental quality. And this came before the pandemic. This was launched in 2016, and the second updated version was launched in 2019. And this work was done under the leadership of Mr. Ashish Rakeja, who is also a panelist here. So the ISHRAE IEQ standard, it classifies buildings on indoor air quality, thermal comfort, visual comfort, and acoustic comfort. It also provides test requirements and methods for measurement of IEQ, and it applies to all kinds of buildings using different ventilation strategies. So it started with the publishing of the position paper in 2015, and then the first version came out in 2016 as an outcome of a research project, and then we had another iteration in 2019. So this can be used for improving the productivity and wellness of the people in the buildings. It provides for continuous monitoring as well as periodic measurement for performing IEQ assessments. And it defines a standard practice document for both system design and facility management purposes. And most importantly, it covers both occupant survey as well as measurement for benchmarking IEQ. And also to provide further guidance during the pandemic, ISHRAE also published the startup and operation of air conditioning and ventilation system during pandemic guidelines. And these guidelines are also available. Now, of course, as COVID-19 will pass, we may have also the risk of having pandemics in the future. And that's why we want to make our buildings pandemic ready. So it's important to use all these tools, including green building certifications, the IEQ standards which are available in the country, to start benchmarking your indoor environmental quality in your office spaces or any other kind of building, and take proactive steps to ensure that the systems are operating as intended for the health and well-being of people as an utmost priority.
Our next speaker in this session is Mr. Mohan Prasad Marappan. He is the General Manager, Regional Solutions and Services Business Smart Infrastructure, Siemens Limited. He has been with Siemens for over 18 years. He graduated in Electrical and Electronics Engineer. Also completed his Executive Management Program from IIM Bangalore. He had garnered rich and varied managerial experience and has demonstrated history of working in electrical and electronic manufacturing industry with his skilled technical support, customer service, account management, competency development, and technical managers for critical infra. Today, Mr. Marappan will talk about how to transform buildings into high-performing assets. Let's welcome Mr. Marappan.
So when we are talking about transforming buildings into performing assets, so the first and foremost, which I would refer to here, is about how we can have buildings in terms of it's not more than just assets. These buildings are now the competitive ones, where we call it as the new competitive edge. And these buildings not only with related to our offices and factories and other infras, but it's also importantly are gaining to our in terms of certain organization goals, which is related to sustainability, and also importantly, they are having an impact with reported to our reputation. The reputation of the organization is also now linked somewhere to the buildings, and also it is one of the foremost. It is coming in the center of the sustainability topic, because as we all know that the buildings consume 70% of the energy bill which we are talking about, and HVAC alone is paying, say for an example, 50% of the bill it is coming from the HVAC. And you would be surprised in many cases which we are working, or say for an example, even in your own, you would have noticed unattended HVAC in terms of, let's say, for an example, a manual set point left without modulation has an impact of about 30% of the additional energy bill which could have been saved. While on one side, it is on with related to the saving aspect. On one side, it is also an icon with related to the energy efficiency. But this is also today very important with related to the reputational strength of the organization. So this is what we call it as the new competitive edge, and it is importantly linked to the employee well-being. This was the other topic which we saw from Mr. Suhas' presentation in detail. So the employee well-being is also associated to that. The new millennials who come to work today, they also get to ask in terms of what kind of buildings do they work. So these are something today and in building is getting much more important than to the earlier ones, which were more with related to a passive asset. But today, these buildings are talking to us, and as much as understanding which we have with related to the building, it can transform into value. And going ahead, the second topic, each building is different. We cannot have one size fit to all. I have an energy optimization solution. Can I apply it to all the buildings? No, it may not be. Every building has its own requirement. The end user may be different. The requirement of those buildings are different. The aging of those buildings are different. The infrastructure, or say for an example, is with related to the people who are occupied in those buildings are different. So it is important that the overall energy efficiency, or say for an example, we call it as improvement measures, are different from building to building, and it is never a one-size-fits-all. So that is the second important aspect which I would like to highlight. And globally, if you look at it on how this is managed, experts are looking at in terms of combining both the advanced technology and also the data which I mentioned about the buildings talking to us, both these particular things to arrive at a comprehensive solution, which means that every building needs to be assessed. Yes, the data needs to be trained, but at the same time, the requirement and need of a building A is different from a building B. So that is where the experts are today working hard to ensure that each of those building needs are met. So that is the second aspect with related to how do we make the buildings a performance one. And the third and most important aspect is about data. In today's world, how do we understand the way the building is talking to us and convert that into value is what is more important, because the right data is what will lead to you in the right result. In any other data analytics language, the buildings is also no different. And what here we are talking about is when we combine the data with the power of expertise, it can help the real estate in terms of not only about saving, not only about reducing the operation cost, not only about how much am I saving on the bill, but it is also will help you in terms of attracting tenants, renegotiate in terms of your the assets what you is being consumed, and more importantly, what it happens is the benchmark of your building, as simple as, say for an example, how much optimization which we are able to bring in with related to your building, and how is your building different with related to the sustainability aspect is important, and for which the data is the key. While we always call the data as the new fuel, but here it is most important aspect, or I would say the most important aspect with related to the data analytics, which can help us to bring in the efficiency of the building. So this is what the third important area, other than the previous aspect with related to buildings as an importance, and at the same time buildings are different. And the third important aspect is how do we understand the data these buildings bring into us. And the last and foremost aspect, while we speak about green building, while we talk about the compliances in terms of what needs to be done in today's building, it is also important that we take this particular aspect beyond the compliances in terms of how do we build value value around all the sustainability topics, because across countries globally, if you look at it, there is a goal with related to reducing the carbon footprint, and at the same time it is also important while we reduce on the energy efficiency, or say for an example, how do we improve the overall performance of the building. It's important that how can the overall expenditure today, which I may require to upgrade my building, can pay for itself. So how is the return on investment? And importantly, what do I have with related to my offering? In the sense, say for an example, is that aging of the building, important aspect, and at the same time, the latest technology. But how do we bring in both these worlds together is what is important. It's not just about reducing the operations or say for an example, bringing down the electricity bill. It is also important how strategically am I going down to slow down the asset depreciations, because that is what is important. Let's take a chiller for an example, and we spoke about this 30% of extra energy which we pay for those aspects. But it's also equivalent in terms of my equipments are being consumed a lot. In the sense that for an unattended set point, which we are talking about, we have the mechanical equipments consuming more energy in terms of not only power, but it also the aging of the equipment is increasing. So in addition to reducing energy cost per tenancy, it is also important that how we can take the building attractive, how the occupancy rate can be improved, how the wellness of it can be achieved. So these are the 4 important parameters which I would like to highlight today.
To our next speaker, I would like to invite Mr. Ashish Rakheja. He is managing partner at Aeon Consultants and has postgraduate degree in thermal engineering from IIT Delhi with over 28 years of work experience. He is a seasoned consulting engineer who has designed over 3,000 projects including hotels, airports, hospitals, retail, residential, commercial, high-rises and industrial projects. Mr. Rakheja specializes in high-performance buildings and has been actively involved in leading design activities. Mr. Ashish Rakheja, along with a team of dynamic sustainability experts and engineers, shared a dream of Vikalp, which is an alternate approach to design by moving away from age-old practices. Their mantra of thinking out of the box paved way for creating Aeon Integrated Building Design Consultant LLP. Mr. Ashish will deliberate upon emerging trends in green building and performance-based HVAC design focused on carbon neutrality with perspective of international trends. So, delegates, let's welcome Mr. Ashish.
Thank you, Krishna. Namaskar, everyone. Grateful to the Thermal Control magazine for organizing such a wonderful and important session. It's such a broad topic, and I tried to put it together by saying evolving HVAC solutions in green world. Now, green is a subject that we have been talking about, we have been hearing about for nearly last 2 decades. India has had or is still having a successful green building movement. We are today pioneers, amongst the pioneers in the world in terms of the green footprint. We are way ahead of most of the countries, and we are marching away to be number 1, the largest footprint on earth in a short while from now, maybe in a few years from now. Where did the need for the green buildings come in? I think we all know the environmental footprint which a man leaves behind is quite distinct, disruptive, and creates challenges for other species in the world. Compared to anybody else, we have the largest footprint. If the Mother Earth could speak to us, this is what we will be told. We are stupid, and I think there is nothing which can deny that. Water and air, which are the 2 essential elements on which the entire life species, they hinge upon it, they have today become nothing but a garbage cans. In this context, the green buildings have played an important role. They have brought out the importance of the subject, and in most of the cases, the green is also associated with energy efficiency. If you look at the rating systems per se, what has evolved in the last 2 decades, the focus continues to be on energy efficiency. And today it has moved to indoor environmental quality. I'll speak more about it as we go ahead. Both energy efficiency as well as the indoor environmental quality primarily hinge around the air conditioning systems. If you look at any building, if you look at the energy bill of any building, the air conditioning is the main culprit for the high bills. And that is where a lot of time the green is often misunderstood as something to do with energy efficiency alone, because nearly 40 to 50% of the total rating system hinges on the energy and the indoor environmental quality. The HVAC systems in last 2 decades have evolved. It's evolved like I can say that when I started my career 30 years back, there was nothing on efficiency or concerns about indoor environment we ever used to speak about. In last 2 decades, it's all about these subjects. The green buildings have helped us. The whole movement has helped us to improve the equipment efficiency. Today we talk of IE2, IE3, IE4 motors. We are talking of the most efficient fans. We are talking about anything that we say. We look at the equipment efficiency. Again, primarily on the HVAC front. No other discipline in the building has evolved to an extent what the air conditioning system has done. We are talking about green refrigerants. The global warming which has come in has made it mandatory for the air conditioning equipment to evolve again. Gone are the days of CFCs, HFCs, HCFCs. Everything is going out. HCFCs are on phase out mode. HFC are on phase down mode, and we are talking about HFOs. We are talking about natural refrigerants. We are just going ahead with those. And all of this comes at the backdrop of what the green is all about. The indoor design conditions are being challenged world over. The government is coming out with the guidelines on higher indoor temperatures, better indoor environment quality. And India is no different, where the government of India has put a requirement for 24 degrees centigrade indoor temperatures. The thermal comfort has become a new subject. In the past, we could never talk about what we say mixed mode ventilation. We could never talk about enhanced air movement, not talk about the relative importance of relative humidities. The thermal comfort is another criteria that we are saying is important with respect to the people comfort. Indoor air quality, I think, has been an area of concern, has been a topic, and it has made it even more important in these times. Today, India enjoys world-class products available from manufacturers all over the world, and Make in India program, Atmanirbhar, is also bringing the manufacturing to India, which we are seeing in the type of products that we are having. And lastly, it has also brought in the equipment certification. We could never think about AHRI or Eurovent or equivalent Indian certification being done for the products that we use in HVAC industry, which today has become a common thing. Now, all of this came with the green ratings and with the evolution, with the requirement to make the building more and more energy efficient. Today, when we look at these, we are at par with the global standards. Our building energy performance has also come down drastically. What we used to design of energy consumption as 20 watt per square foot in a building just 2 decades back is now down to less than 1/3 of it. In fact, today we are talking of 3 to 4 watt per square foot of energy used in a building. And mind it includes the air conditioning, electrical, plumbing, fire, everything. 1/7 of what we used to do just 2 decades back. The air conditioning itself has played the most important role here. The loads that we used to say about 200 square feet per ton is now up to maybe about 400, 500 square feet per ton are very common things that we hear. So all of this has been an outcome of the green building movement. So as rightly mentioned about the indoor environmental quality, because as the air and the water are becoming especially the air is becoming an area of concern, people are turning to buildings for solution, because we spend 90 to 95% of time indoors. The Indian Society of Heating, Refrigerating and Air Conditioning Engineers, ISHRE, came out with the IEQ standard in 2016, recognizing the need for it. And if you look at the subjects that was covered by the IEQ standard, we thermal comfort, indoor air quality, or acoustics, all of them related again to the air conditioning system. And today, our designs, our solutions have to look at that. As a natural corollary and as what progressed, there's now rating systems from whether US Green Building Council, Indian Green Building Council, talking about the wellness. And it's all about the wellness of the people inside. And incidentally, the IGBC Health and Wellbeing Rating System made ISHRAE IEQ standard as a base standard. And that's where all the references are made in that rating system. COVID-19 coming here again emphasized the need for good indoor environment, and it all talked about going back to the basics of the HVAC design. And again, HVAC systems are the ones which are expected to solve the problem for providing a safe indoor environment to the people. Today, the world is now moving on to what we call digital twins. And digital twin is nothing where we look at, I think to some extent, my colleague from Siemens did talk about it, did touch that, but digital twinning is all about creating a mirror of the building on a computer simulation tool before you even physically construct it or do anything to it. So you have a digital twin which is available. You can play with the twin. You can optimize the building design, whether it's a greenfield project or a brownfield project. IoT is another big emerging area, and all of this digital twinning and IoT is expected to change the way we design and way we construct the buildings or the air conditioning systems there. ISHRAE, recognizing this importance, is coming out with a building energy performance standard. We call it IBEEPS. The intent here is to benchmark the energy performance. Now, if you look at the current ECBC or the ASHRAE 90.1, they all talk about energy efficiency. When they talk of energy efficiency, often equipment of a particular, energy efficiency of the building, and they go down to the equipment level, but we don't know how the subsystems in that building are performing. What is the individual HVAC system performance? What is the individual plumbing system performance? What is the individual elevator performance? What should it be? What should the benchmark be? What should a Class A building performance for these subsystems should be like? Class B, Class C. So this is where the ISHRAE is currently working on, and this is going to challenge the HVAC designs once more. From today, the green standards that we follow, which are saying that make it more efficient, it is now all going to be about performance. The focus will shift from design to actual operation of the building. The trends in the market today are the green rating is something that we have done for 2 decades. We are doing it, but we are now moving to what we call a net zero world. Net zero in terms of energy, net zero in terms of water, net zero in terms of waste. All 3 areas, again, HVAC systems, the air conditioning systems play the role. If we have to go to net zero energy world, where we do not rely on the energy which is produced by coming from the city, but we look at what we call a renewable energy sources, the air conditioning load energy consumption has to come down, because then only the net zero energy becomes viable. Energy water nexus is another area that we are discussing, and that's where how the energy can be cut down to reduce the water demand, and how can the water demand reduction helps the energy reduction. That's another area being talked about. And finally, move on to low carbon world, carbon neutral world, which is the ultimate aim. Already the cities and the countries are putting a guideline that 2030 is the start of the carbon neutral era. It's the start, and hopefully in another decade, 2 decades after that, the whole world will be moving towards that. Once again, HVAC would be the focus. I personally foresee this as what the future specifications will read like. Today, many of us get in design, at least I get an RFP from a client asking us, my building should be like this, my building should perform like this. I think this is what will be. Whereas water, energy, waste, ratings, everything is going to be zero. And once you reach that zero, you've actually made the world more sustainable. So it's the steps that we are taking. Moving forward, I know that we have been, India has been marching ahead. It's not the size of the steps which matter, it's the way we are moving forward with it. We need to continue thinking big. We need to dream big. And believe me, in India, it is happening and it will happen. We would be the leaders in the net zero movement also. And that's where it will be true sustainability. Thank you.
The next speaker in this session is Mr. Surinder Pal Singh. He is director at Exalta India, a professional turned entrepreneur having 20 years of experience in CE industry. Expert of launching startups and new business, hired Panasonic AOC TV. Last assignment of OG Heavy Duty as head sales and marketing was also launched. Expert of scaling up value and volume of business in stipulated time. Now looking to set up empire of Exalta Group. Today, Mr. Singh will walk us through green buildings approach as well as standards and code support design measures to reduce energy consumption in building environment and incorporating techniques and control systems in design. Also, minimize load on HVAC design. So delegates, let's welcome Mr. Singh.
So I'll just here, as I told that I am a novice, I'll take this. What is green building and how can HVAC help to make green building more effective? And like now the things have started, like every speaker has till now spoken on the indoor quality of the AC. So I'll take those points, but bear with me as I already told that I'm being a novice. So I'll probably be repeating the things which you have already told, but I'll start with that. See, for me, green energy building, I'll start with the green energy building. What is green energy building? For the people, generally people think which has more air or more greenery or more like thing is a green building. But what I feel and what I've studied, it is a things which we can reduce, whether it is energy, whether it is wastage or reuse, whatever material is already used, we can reuse it, and how we can recycle the things. So we can optimize the resources, whatever we have. So there are a number of features which can make building a green. Any building can be a green building, whether it is a house, whether it is a hospital, whether it is a church, whether it is a gurdwara, any building can be a green building. So efficient use of energy is one thing, efficient use of water is the other thing, and other resources, use of renewable energy such as solar energy, pollution and waste reduction measure, which can help you to improve the indoor quality, good indoor quality, use of material which is non-toxic or we can things, and the design of the building, and that is also one of the major part to make it green building. So structure outline of the building is very, very important. Augmentation of utilization of sunlight is other important thing. Research on the building material is another thing. Reuse existing material is a thing. Solid indoor air quality is the thing. Machines which we are using, are they vitality productive and or they can save waters? Plan for simplicity, that is the other thing. How we can clean or maintain or manage the building is the other thing. So having said all this, HVAC, like Ashish ji has already said, that AC has primarily always been taken as a bigger thing which can save on the energy part and on the quality part. So with the COVID also coming in, this has also become a discussion point. Like already it has started that COVID is spread through the air conditioning only. So that was in the first wave, it was a major thing. Like Suhas has already told that WHO has given clear this thing on that. There is no issue on that, but still we need to take care of all these things. So once we are planning the things, planning the building, so there are few things which we need to take care that how energy efficient is our design is. See, since we are the people who are working on solar and things, so we think that solar is the major thing which can also again reduce on the major energy consumption. So that is the one thing which we need to work out. How is the building orientation? That is the another thing. How we can use the solar majorly. Proper orientation can significantly reduce the cooling load and improve energy efficiency. That is the other thing. Facing of the building is the another thing which we need to take care while we are making the building. And in most of the part, if it is the north-south facade, it is always considered as a better this thing. Proper shading is also another a big thing while we are making green building. That can also help. while we are window wall ratio is again very important thing. If we make more of windows, then probably you need to use more AC. So that ratio is also very important when we are designing the things. Building envelope, actually building the total thing which we roof, fenestration, glazing, and exterior wall, everything. And if we are making the walls, while we are making the building, if we are doing the proper insulation on the walls, that can also help us a lot. It helps cut down the heat load in the building, downsizing the air conditioning equipment required to cool and space and everything. So all these things, while doing all these things, there are few other things which we can take care. We need to buy the AC which are energy efficient AC. So we need to take care of that. Earlier, like Mr. Ashish said, 2 years back, 20 years back or 10 years back, or normal in the CEN industry, everybody was looking at the price and looking at the normal things like which is 2-star or 3-star. Now we need to look at which is the best if we need to really control on things. So we need to procure those AC which are really best in the performance, and they has to be compliance to the ISHRE or ASHRE or whatever certification we have. We need to use the BLDC motors for our equipments. We need to use variable speed pumps. They are very silent. They are very long life. Like Mohan Prasad has already talked a lot on about the sustainability. So all these things will add to the sustainability if we use these kind of products. Then dedicated outdoor air system that need to be there. Supply air system control, demand control ventilations, and there are air-to-air heat recovery system. That is again one of the biggest thing. So which can really, if we use that system, so we can use that for control the humidity in the summer season, and in the winter season it can be used for the dehumidification. So these are all these things which I think are the more valuable things why are we planning for HVAC installation and in the green building.
Moving ahead to our next speaker, I'd like to invite Mr. Kushagra Juneja. He is a BEE certified EBC master trainer. He is also certified as ASSOCHAM GEM CP Lead AP and IGBC AP, and a Griha trainer and evaluator. His area of expertise includes sustainability in built environment, energy efficiency, green buildings, and mechanical design services. He is the managing partner of Design to Occupancy Services LLP, an engineering design and green building consulting firm operating internationally. He works with the core committee of IGBC Jaipur chapter, treasurer of Indian Building Performance Stimulation Association, India, and serves on National Council of ASSOCHAM GEM rating system. His core interest lies in sustainability, energy efficiency, and the education related to it. He has worked with state government of Punjab, Rajasthan, Jharkhand, Gujarat for implementation of ECBC in these states and to promote energy efficiency activities with state nodal agencies. Internationally, he has worked on several assignments in USA, Nigeria, Mauritius, Bangladesh, Saudi Arabia, Maldives, UAE, Argentina, and Belize. Today, Mr. Kushagra will talk about role of HVAC in green buildings, their weightage, innovative practices, and related topics. So delegates, let's welcome Mr. Juneja.
Good evening, everyone. Let us take a step back, and 50 years back, we all would appreciate that some of the things that we have today that we have to pay for, unfortunately, were actually free, which was fresh air and clean water. And these are the things that we actually are today struggling with, I would say. And definitely the solution to mankind has always been, like Ashish also mentioned, has also always been progressive. So we always have to keep looking for solutions, keep moving forward, keep evolving. Air conditioning, when we speak about in a lot of events, conferences, deliberations, government panels, the discussion is that the country is moving towards urbanization at a very fast pace. And a lot of people, whether it is schemes like Housing for All by 2022, and these schemes are supported by many state governments, central government, multilateral donor agencies, and whatnot. And there are policies coming in every day which ensure or which work towards enhancing energy efficiency in the overall gamut of the building industry. Air conditioning now, we would say, contributes about 40 to 50% of what a building would consume. Now, let us also differentiate. 20, 30 years back, we would know that the focus of all the governments, the focus of a lot of authorities used to be on industries. That efficiency has to come on from industry side. The Bureau of Energy Efficiency, no doubt, launched a very popular and a very successful scheme called the Perform, Achieve and Trade program for industries, which was very successful. As things progressed, the share of industries grew at a much smaller level, but the share of buildings is growing at a much faster level. The population is rising, the access to infrastructure, the access to air conditioning, the access to energy is rising. Electrification is happening from villages, and a lot of unelectrified villages, which was the case a decade back, is not the case anymore. So with this increased access, the energy consumption is also rising. And you would appreciate that HVAC, heating, ventilation and air conditioning, we are such a diverse country that we have all the requirements. There will be some parts of the country which require heating. Predominantly, I think where predominantly most of the speakers are based, the heating might not be required. Cooling is required, humidification is required, dehumidification is required. There is a requirement of, Suhas was talking about clean air, indoor air quality, that is required, ventilation is required. And on top of all these requirements of comfort, efficiency is required. And all these standards, the rating systems, you would say that, they were perceived as providing energy efficiently, providing air quality efficiently, providing water efficiently. That was the perception of green building 10 years back. But as time has progressed, that perception has changed. Now, green building is not only required to deliver what you need effectively or efficiently, but also it is required that a green building provide comfort to its occupants. So that comfort can be thermal comfort, that comfort can be visual comfort, that comfort can be acoustic comfort. But the definition of a green building has now evolved to a much comprehensive thing. Carbon neutrality is definitely in the focus, and major organizations, whether it is Reliance in India or Amazon globally, have committed to carbon neutral goals. And since we've been working with a lot of these organizations at the global level and making them carbon neutral, the vision is not just to disrupt business and focus on carbon neutrality, but the vision is to take things hand in hand. And that is why it would need all of our joint effort to make things happen. Now, getting back to HVAC, it is one focal point which would include a lot of aspects in a building. Let us start with architecture. Architecture is one aspect which begins at the beginning of a building. And like you would already appreciate that the built infrastructure in India is, a lot of it is yet to be built, whether it is residential buildings or it is commercial buildings. It is said that by 2030, 60% of the buildings are yet to be built. So if there are 100 buildings that exist today, 200 more are yet to be built. And if we talk about developed economies, for instance, a lot of it is already built. So the intervention at the architectural stage is a lot, at the design stage is a lot. And whether it is starting from equipment room locations, floor to floor heights, depth of the structure, ceiling heights, location of the building envelope elements, life safety features, orientation of the building, everything, it relates directly with air conditioning. Let us talk about structural engineering. So we are just analyzing how important HVAC actually is. Structural, if we talk about type of construction, what would be the load bearing, where would the units be placed, whether the roof can take that load. A lot of living roofs have been popular, whether those can take the air conditioning load, because in especially earth buildings or buildings like that, a lot of times the challenge can come that the building roof is a living roof and it cannot take the load. So structural is again amalgamated with air conditioning. Civil engineering, whether it is other site utilities, landscaping, local microclimate, all of it will again impact your air conditioning. And not only air conditioning, whenever I say air conditioning, I mean HVAC. Impacts of electrical engineering, definitely sizable. We were designing a home which was, and mind me, I'm saying a home 5,000 square feet, not a lot. And the load, the electrical connected load of that house itself was 70 to 80 kilowatts. Not because there was some extravagant consumption, but the need was central cooling, central air quality control, central filtration, and all those things which added to this. So electrical things have gone up and also gone down at the same time. If you talk about lighting, the era has changed very, very fast. We transitioned from a very inefficient incandescent to a very efficient LED, and now even inverter LED is available. And all of this, mind you, is contributing to reduction in electrical loads. So a lot of needs have changed, a lot of technologies have changed, and going forward, our only way is to be aware and to be the first adopters in all of the changing scenarios. And not to forget the plumbing aspect. HVAC is directly intertwined with plumbing, fire, and any other aspects of the building. So what I'm trying to say is HVAC is a very comprehensive subject. It cannot be seen in a silo. It cannot be seen independently. It has to be seen along with a lot of other very, very small aspects. And I think when we talk about the building information modeling or any other thing like that, HVAC is one of the prime reason why people switch to BIM, because things get more efficient. If you draw a circle around India, China, Pakistan, Bhutan, Sri Lanka, and on the map you draw a circle, you will realize that about, I would say 50% of the population is situated in this region alone. So if try to take a map of the country and just draw a circle starting from circling China and covering India and go down, and you would see the majority population is concentrated in this part of the world. And this is the part of the world which also has colder regions, very cold regions in parts of China, north parts of India, some parts of maybe Pakistan, very temperate zones, coasts of Mumbai, Kolkata, Bangladesh, hilly surroundings, Nepal, some parts of Bangladesh, proper coastal countries, Sri Lanka, and yet the requirements, the people are very diverse, the economy is very growing. In US, you would say the consumption of energy was not growing at this pace. But if you talk about this entire region, the demand of energy, the growth is immense. And this warrants us that, HVAC is, I'm sad that I don't have a presentation today, but there are pictures that will really change your mind about growth, really change your perception about growth. There are entire buildings full of balconies, and each balcony has an outdoor unit of air conditioner lying outside it. And you would see the building elevation. The architect must have designed the building with so much of pain and effort, and all that you see in the elevation is outdoor units of air conditioning. All this is changing. VRF units have come. A lot of people are going on district cooling systems. Cities are evolving. New cities like Gift City, Ashish ji rightly said, we are leading the way in carbon neutrality, and we are leading the way in change. Gift City, a relatively new city in the state of Gujarat, has proposed a entirely district cooled system, which was earlier considered to be a very possible thing only in the West. So things have evolved, technologies have changed, and I think it is time for us. I always say climate is changing, and so should we.
Before going ahead, I invite all our guest speakers to join us for today's panel discussion on HVAC for green buildings. I also invite Mr. Gopal Krishna and Mr. Prasad Nair to join us for the session.
Yes, we had a very great and vibrant session about the green buildings, and we here are very pleased to see the like-minded expert panelists together, raising awareness about green building technology through the various stringent standards they have been established. So coming to Mr. Suhas, As you rightly say, the occupant perception is necessary for the indoor environment. Sensors are required, PM 2.5 and filtrations are required, facilities and LEED certifications, etc. I want to ask is, improving health air exchange is universal focus, and managing indoor air quality is a necessity during post-pandemic. And pandemic is in unlocking phase. With your experience, would you share your views how green business certification levels impact our future built environment in the domain of performance of green buildings? Mr. Suhas.
Right. Thank you. That's a great question. Any certification provides you with a verified performance level. If you look at the rating system that we have for existing buildings, if you get a certain level of certification, it signifies that for a particular performance period, your building had air quality for which was apt for the health and well-being of occupants. And it is a verification of the success of the sustainability strategies of the facility management team as well. On the design side, any design certification verifies the fact that yes, your building is ready to administer a healthy space to the occupants. But any design certification must be followed up with right operations and maintenance strategies. So it's this process of continuous improvement and verifying through certification and standard compliance. It's an ongoing process throughout the building life cycle, and that's why we have recertification and existing building certification.
Yeah, that makes real sense, Mr. Suhas, and thank you so much for giving a detailed view about that. Yes, Mr. Gopal, you can move to the next question. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Prasad. My next question is to Mr. Ashish. You were talking about evolving HVAC solutions and that environment is disrupted almost. You talked about energy efficiency around HVAC systems, which are high billing factors. And you seek equipment efficiency certifications too. In this respect, green building is a movement globally as it concerns climate and optimum utilization of natural resources. We are adopting many technologies and still trends are emerging as always. How challenging are the trends when you talk about net zero world, carbon neutrality, which are the new subjects, safe environment, IoT, and integrating these measures into the green building system?
Sure. I think it's a great question, Mr. Gopal, and I'm going to just rephrase it a little bit.
Sure.
Trends are not challenging. Trends are coming from the fact there is a requirement. As we continue to slaughter the world, the only Mother Earth that we have, even though we have a green building movement now, which has helped in its own manner, but then that's not adequate. We need to do far more. So the slaughtering continues. So as we continue to do that, the speed of response now has to become more aggressive. The solutions have become more aggressive, and this is what we are seeing. So the jump from the world of energy efficiency alone or the green buildings alone now to a net zero has come at a very, very fast pace, and net zero is already moving on to the carbon neutrality. And carbon neutrality, of course, is the ultimate level of sustainability that we'd like to reach. So the pace has become faster because the requirement is becoming faster. Now, that's part one to it. The challenges that are ahead here, to get to the green building movement where we are, it has taken us more than 2 decades. Still, the movement is limited only to what we say top-down world. It's to the corporate or to the big users or the architect world or some HVAC engineer world. It has still not gone down to the common person. If you were to ask children or housewives what is green, I think you get different solutions altogether. So until it becomes a bottom-up movement, that's where the challenge will remain. That's one. Number two, the implementation of it, even in the tier 2, tier 3 cities, Tier 1 is not the only solution that we are looking at. We look at Tier 2 and Tier 3. Number 3, all our focus has been on the buildings, not on a built environment. The system, we need to move to a built environment. And last of it, everything has remained with the designers. Now, Suhas, Kushagra, all of us, or with Mohan as an equipment supplier or a solution supplier, we all are committed, fine. But at the end of the day, I'm not operating the building. I'm not operating the equipment. And the gap between what we design, what we manufacture, to how we actually operate remains in a big way. So education, operation, bottom-up approach, I think these are challenges which are still there, which need to be addressed for us to come to the real solution, Mr. Gopal. That's all from my side.
Ashish ji, thank you so much for showing a macro picture about the industry, and definitely industry is going to take these views very seriously. Before we move to Surendra ji, I have a question. You are talking about the importance of air conditioners, especially in green buildings. What do you suggest to make air conditioner more energy efficient as well as when you use in a green building, say, project?
See, we have already talked about it. See, you need to make your machines more energy efficient. You can use that by doing the BLDC things and the inverter compressor. That is the only thing which, as of now, we can do with our this thing. Now, see, there is a huge gap. Most of in normal consumer electronic industry, air conditioner, normal 2-3 AC, 2-3 star ACs are still selling, and they contribute about 60-70%. Now, the big brands like Voltas or Daikin or all those, they are trying to do it. They have started using BLDC compressors, BLDC motors. But people like Mitsubishi, people like Journal, they are still selling those AC. They are selling on the air pressure and those things. They are not only talking about this. So we need to educate people on that. And we as a manufacturer and we as a seller, we need to work on that so that we can give people more energy efficient thing. And these are more sustainable also. See, normal AC works for 4-5 years compressor because it works on a jerk load. Wherein if we use inverter compressors, the life of inverter compressor is much, much more. So that sustainability factor also comes there. So we need to use these kind of things to make the ACs more energy efficient.
Yeah, you say innovative or modern air conditioners are definitely designed for efficient operation. Yes, Mr. Kushagra, AC air conditioner is just one aspect of HVAC solutions available for green building. What are the other innovations you notice in HVAC space for green building projects?
Innovation, I think at times it is a very override word. Innovation can be very small, very little, yet it can contribute a lot. Let us take an example of colors. If your interiors are painted white, and I think a few of us might be architects, it will not only give a feel of your space being big, but also at the same time it will reflect the light more, and you might be able to do same amount of visual comfort with less number of lights. So you will save on the wattage, and at the end you will again save on air conditioning energy. So it is very small. It is a very well-known aspect, very little aspect, yet contributes a lot. Let us take an example of, let us say, VRV systems. Very well adopted, but again, implementation is very important. Not necessarily that every time you put in a VRV in an individual space that is occupied for 8 hours, VRV might not give any efficiency because it is designed for. So innovation has to come in our day-to-day routine. It has to come in our day-to-day operations, and I think the way you can innovate in your building, nobody else can. Technologies are there, but how you implement them is innovation.
Absolutely, they know better how, what are the measures to suggest for and where you can save your energy. Excellent. Yes, Mr. Mohan Prasad, when you talk about technology, Siemens play a great role in, say building, whether it is building automation or enhancing efficiency of buildings. What do you suggest? What are the measures you suggest to convert buildings into performing assets?
Talking about Siemens, the first major industrial company across the globe to say that by 2030 we will go carbon neutral. So, hope I'm audible? Yeah, so let me try again. So what I said is that talking about Siemens, Siemens is the first major industrial company to commit about going carbon neutral by 2030. So what we come with is about the experience. And if I apply the same experience here to your question, in the sense that we spoke about a lot of challenges, we spoke about complexity, we spoke about how different, each building is different. We spoke about how things are changing, and also at the same time, how do we keep the aging of the building, or say for an example, how do I transform an old building to a really an asset? Now, while the complexity is growing, but the technology is also keeping pace, is what I would say. Now, if I look at with an experience of whatever our experts speak to about from 7,500 projects across globe, which they come up with, every day we are learning. So what is important today is about, we do projects. So we are very well clear with related to the project engineers. We are clear with related to service engineers. But today is a time where we speak about data engineers. We need to speak about data analysts. Now, these people are very rare in the sense, say, for an example, you don't get hundreds of data analysts into the, when you go for a hire. These are something is what the expertise that Siemens rely on, wherein which can partner with our customers. And when these particular things, one is on the first, where there is a goal which a customer has set, and for that particular goal, how do we achieve it? Can I have a return on investment in 3 years, or I need 13 years? So that's the answer which the data can answer, and how well the data is trained based on various projects is what we look at it. And that I am sure that it comes with the expertise, it comes with the patented technologies, but at the same time, as Mr. Ashish earlier said, it comes with a lot of convincing. It's not that one person can derive a value out of it. It is that everybody needs to think toward that. It's not a statement of just going green, or say for an example, getting a certification. The important aspect is when we do an energy project, I also heard from Junaisa about the Gift City, for an example. It's not about, just about, how this project is done, but it is important that how the life cycle of the project is, sustained. So how do you get the return on investment year on year? How do you measure it? How do you fine tune it? How do you do a course correction? These are something is expertise and technology running behind the particular data. And that is what is key to the success of any energy efficient building. Or say for an example, when we are talking about green building, it is important of about sustaining over the decade. It's not just about the first year of achieving X number of goals.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mohan Prasad. And it is rightly you said that it's like a transition, and it will come, according to the time which goes. See here, one of the good observation from Mr. Balmurugan, he shared with us that when we were discussing, Mr. Kushagra, about the new technologies, or innovative technologies, he was talking about the absorption chillers. Energy efficient technology will be good replacement of compressors, and water will be refrigerant. No ozone depletion. Probably you have any comments on that, Mr. Kushagra?
Yeah, absorption chillers are a great replacement, no doubt about it, and especially when coupled with the low temperature heating that solar can provide, or a heat pump can provide. So absorption chillers, whether you talk about chill beams, earlier there were issues of chill beams creating humidity issues and sensation issues, but those things have now, with technology, you can control them. With technology, chill beams have been very popular. Earth air tunnels, for example, were seen with a very high investment and low return kind of a eye, because they were difficult to implement. But you would see that there's a building in very close to Jaipur of the Comptroller and Auditor General of India for training. Very beautifully implemented earth air tunnel. The NIT University has very beautifully implemented earth air tunnel. So these technologies have definitely come a long way, and 10 years back there were many challenges around it. Those things have gone down, absorption chillers definitely being one of them. So yeah, I think all of them have a great future.
Yeah, point made. Thank you so much. And also, I'm really grateful to all the panelists who answered the questions which we already received. And there is one more person who asked the question. If somebody can answer this as well, it will be great. And Mr. Suhas, I would like to hear from you. It's one of the, interesting aspect that we have many buildings which are definitely not green buildings. and if someone really want to go for it, that want to take up the building to a green building, so what are the concerns you will address from the HVAC professionals point of view?
So even if let's say an existing building is not a green building, you can right away start with tracking your performance. That's the first point of improvement. Whether you're a green building or not, your footprint is already existing on the environment. You start tracking your energy consumption, your water consumption, and those kinds of footprints. Start with those things and improve on those things, and then move to other aspects such as waste, transportation footprint. And that's where the tools such as the ARC platform that we have, it is available for all buildings for free tracking. You don't need to register and pay thousands of dollars and get certification. You can use that ARC tool, arcscoru.com, to track performance on energy, water, waste, and human experience for free of cost. So technology is enabling performance tracking on a massive scale, whether it's ArcScoru or any other tool. There is choice available in the market. All the buildings that you need to do is they need to be aware, and they need to be proactive, and they need to start taking action.
Thank you so much, Mr. Suhas. Ashish sir, I'm coming to you to anchor this conversation. This is one of the instances where most of the professionals start talking about carbon footprints, and people are concerned about carbon emission. People are concerned about impact on our surroundings. This world itself looks different now. Even new architects, new engineers who come out and submit their papers, put their presentations, we get many articles from the industry, especially new generation. They are really worried about what kind of projects they create. I would like to you to close the this conversation with a closing remark, and a message to the industry, how they can look at HVAC from a green building perspective.
Thank you, Prasad. I think you've given me a big responsibility. I'll try to do justice to that. I think you heard from all of the esteemed speakers on what the future holds and what they are seeing. In fact, if you look at what Suhas started with in terms of how the rating systems themselves are evolving to address the concerns of the built environment. Whether it was green rating, which was years back, green itself keeps evolving, IEQ, the well rating system which is there, to the COVID, how they're addressing that. So it goes on. Going forward, I think that becomes a reality. You will keep seeing things like this. Mohan talking about IoTs and about the controls. The world and the country has shied away from using controls in large scale, but this is where the future is. Our buildings have to talk to us, because if the buildings talk to us, we get to know what's going on. When we get to know what's going on, that's where we start correcting that. So performance-based design is something which is going to become a reality as we go forward. Equipment, versus Surinder Palji, what he said, I think you can see that. Kushagra, he echoed the same thing what we were speaking about earlier. Now, from my perspective, what I see for the future generations, I think these are exciting times. If you think you've seen big things so far in building industry, I think it's nothing. The last 2 decades were just the tip of the change that is coming in. Mind it, as I said earlier, we continue to play havoc with our Mother Earth. The time is running out. As the time is running out, the need for action is becoming faster. Buildings have been identified as a low-hanging fruit. What we have done till date is still not adequate. If I go by the number of green buildings that we have in Indian context, I think we'll not even go into the double digit. The remaining 90% plus is not green. So this is where the story of the built environment is, and you multiply that in the world, the things are no different out there. With this, our buildings will become more and more extreme. In fact, at one point of time, I had given a talk where I said, when you spend a 95% time inside the buildings, you're expecting buildings to keep you safe. You want buildings to be efficient. Buildings will ultimately do what we call energy generation, which is happening. Buildings will do water generation, which is happening. In fact, you're doing the rainwater capturing. As we run out of so as the human population continues to grow and as we run out of the surfaces to do agriculture, buildings are going to offer that solution to you because the entire building surfaces are available to you. So the building evolution is going to be faster. Now that's where my young colleagues who are passing out from the college and who are looking at, I think they have got brilliant opportunities ahead. Sky is the limit. We are talking of living buildings as we go ahead. There is something called a living building challenge, which in US came out many years back. I spoke about it, bringing that concept to some of the conferences, and people said, "Arey, ye to pata nahi kya baat kar rahe ho, kab hoga?" And today, living building challenge has become a reality where the requirement is net zero energy, net zero water, net zero waste, and four more things which are there. So I think whatever you do, and so far we had just limited ourselves, just saying, take a minute more. So far we had limited ourselves to thinking office buildings, residential buildings. But as you go forward, even the mega projects like airports, like places of worship, talk about anything, they're all looking at similar solutions. If there's a temple coming up, without naming it, if there is a religious place coming up, if there's an education institution coming up, if there's an airport coming up, there's a metro coming up today. Metro stations are filled up with the solar panels. The airports are filled up with solar panels. And the challenge is, how do you keep integrating? How do you make them more beautiful? The concept of beautiful just being glass is getting challenged. I think the beautiful is now, how do you integrate everything into it? So I think these are challenging times. These are exciting times, and our younger colleagues should be happy about it. And that's where the HVAC industry, because as we stay indoors, we want better world, we want cleaner world. I think it's got a great future ahead of us also.
Thank you, panelists, for exchanging your valuable thoughts on today's topic, HVAC for green buildings. We hope you enjoyed the session thoroughly. Before wrapping up today's session, we would like to thank our distinguished panelists, Mr. Suhas Mathur, Mr. Mohan Prasad Marappan, Mr. Ashish Rakheja, Mr. Surinder Pal Singh, and Mr. Kushagra Janeja. I'd also like to thank Mr. Gopal Krishna and Mr. Prasad Nair for taking this initiative. So with this, we would like to announce the closing of today's session. I request you to stay tuned for more such sessions. Until then, thank you and goodbye.